Hello, welcome to Bumble Stitches podcast. This is episode 38 and it's Saturday the 18th of May. My name's Nicola and you can find me on Instagram as Bumble Stitches and on Ravelry as Bumble Stitches too. And we also have a podcast group under the groups tab called Bumble Stitches Podcast, which you are more than welcome to join. Thank you for coming back if you're a returning viewer. It's really good to see you again. And if you're a new viewer or you've recently subscribed to the channel, a big warm welcome to you and I hope you enjoy today's episode. So I hope you're all keeping really well. It has been a little while since I podcast last. Lots has been going on. I was a little bit poorly and that's the reason why I haven't podcast for a while. I was hoping to have been back much sooner. But the result of me not being very well is that I had quite a lot of time at home recuperating. And that equated to a lot of knitting time, a lot of rest and relaxation, and therefore lots of knitting and watching copious amounts of podcasts and Netflix. So I've got quite a lot of finished objects to share with you today, which is the silver lining. So I will run through what's happening in the podcast today for you. I've got some notes because there's quite a lot going on, and so I will need to keep looking down at my notes from time to time. I've got a total of 7 finished objects to share with you, which is pretty astonishing really. And I did contemplate holding a couple back for another podcast episode, but I thought, oh well, let's just share them all today and that will spur me on to get some more things finished to share with you on the next episode. So there's lots of finished objects, not so many whips, and I've got a little bit of a plan moving forward with whips, which I'll share with you as well. I've also got some winners to announce from a knit along and giveaway that was run previously, and I have a new giveaway for today's episode, a few acquisitions and just some general sort of knitty chat. So let's jump straight in to the finished objects, and the first one, which you can probably see, is something that I'm wearing, and this is the Sipilla sweater by Caitlin Hunter of Boylan Knitworks. Now you haven't seen this before, it wasn't even a whip on the last episode. It's something that I cast on while I was at home recovering from my surgery, and I really enjoyed knitting this. So I'll stand up so you can have a little look and then I'll tell you about it more. So it's a top down sweater, so you cast on at the top and there's some short row shaping here at the back, and then all knitted in the round, the colourwork yoke, and then separate for the sleeves as is the normal way for that sort of sweater construction, and then just knit down the body. And there's 2 options on the pattern, I'll show you in a sec. I opted for the short sleeve so I could wear it on these sort of in between days when it isn't really cold and isn't really too warm. I knit it all in merino singles. I'll just do a little bit of a twirl. Let me just move the chair out of the way so I can show you a bit better. So I knit it sort of like to mid hip here. I'll just show you. So the colourwork yoke goes all the way around the back. And I particularly like the sort of rolled edges on the neckline and here on the sleeve as well. So you just sort of like do stockinette so it rolls up on itself, and I think it's a really nice little detail. So I'm really pleased with this. I think it's going to be a really wearable item. There was a little bit of a scary moment when I blocked this. It is a merino superwash yarn that I used, and it did seem to grow. It appeared to have grown exponentially when it was on the blocking mats. So let me sit down and I can tell you a bit more about it. Yeah, so I soaked and blocked it and I put it on the mats and laid it all out and sort of shaped it, and it just seemed to have got really wide. I was expecting it to get longer, but it got really wide, and I thought, oh, disaster, it's not going to fit, it's going to be way too big. And I was a bit despondent at that point, so I just thought, well, I'll leave it to dry and wait and see what happens, because it seemed fine before I blocked it. Just have a sip of my drink, sorry. But once it was dry, I don't know if it was just like a optical illusion of the way it was laying on the mats when it was blocking, or what it particularly was, but once it's on, as you can see, It fits really well now. I knitted the size, I think it was the XL. This is the pattern, Sapilla. So you can see I've gone for the short sleeve option here. But there is the long sleeve option with lots of colour work on the sleeve as well, which I do really like, but I just felt this was going to be more wearable for me, particularly this time of year. So I knitted the size XL, and that's given me just the right amount of ease that I would like. I'm really, really pleased with it. You know, as I said, I thought it was going to be a bit of a knitting fail. I didn't do a gauge swatch. I blame it on the medication. I just thought, oh, it'll be fine. I'll just cast it on and knit it. It'll be fine. And I think I did get away with it this time, but I don't think going forward it's a particularly good idea to not do a swatch. But yes, it's absolutely fine now, so I'm really, really pleased with it. I knit this pattern using merino singles, as I mentioned, and I'll just show you what I've got left so you can see the yarns. I think I've got the bands in here somewhere as well. So it was knit in this colour here, is from, oops, it's from La Bien-Aimée, and it's their merino singles, and the colourway is Wee Rainbow on Vespa. I don't know if that's going to focus okay. Camera doesn't want to seem to focus at the moment. But yes, the colourway is Wee Rainbow on a Vespa. It's 100% superwash merino. And for the main colour of the body, I used Fine Fish yarns from Terry. I'm absolutely in love with her yarn at the moment. This is a superwash merino single as well in the colourway Fink. Up there, and as you can see from the body here, it's a neutral but with some speckles throughout it, just sort of like fairly neutral shades. There are some tiny pops of blue and pink in there, but they're very, very tiny, and the overall effect is just a really nice neutral. I bought this yarn, those of you that saw my Make 9 video at the beginning of the year will remember that I had the Eri sweater, no, Ambient sweater by Eri, and I'd bought the kit for that at Fibre East last year, which comprised 3 skeins of the Fink yarn and a mohair skein to hold on the pattern work round the yoke. But I hadn't really, there was a reason why I kept putting off knitting. I think it just really wasn't sort of calling to me. So I decided to utilise this merino singles in this design, and I'm really, really pleased that I did. I know a lot of people shy away from singles, especially for garments, but it's actually knitted and blocked up really, really well, and I would, you know, I'd definitely give it a go if it was something that you were thinking wouldn't be suitable. I know lots of people use singles for shawls and things like that, but I think it's knitted up really well, and the stitch definition is great. It was fine for the colour work. As you can see, the colour work has worked out really well. And I'm very, very pleased to have a new garment in my wardrobe, especially perfect for this time of year. So that's my first finished object. I'll pop that to one side. Okay, as well as having this on the needles while I was off from work, I decided it would be a really good idea to get some of the whips that I had finished up. So there were a couple of things that had been resting in project bags for quite a while, and a couple of those items were socks, one of which was my Christmas Eve cast on, which was the Twinkling Trees socks by Danny of Little Bobbins, and I finally got them finished. I've actually got a pair now of socks, and you can see I have shown these before, so you can see the little tree patterns here with a little bobble detail on the top, and then just down into pretty much a plain vanilla sock. And I've done a slip stitch heel, flap and gusset on here, and I've actually done a this was an umbrella toe that I used from one of Kay Jones's patterns that I really, really like the fit of, so I just adapted the toe to suit me. And these were knit in Rowan Fine Art yarn. I can't remember the colourway. I think it was actually just the colour number on them. And for the little bobbles, I have used a little mini skein I had in natural. It's actually got a Stellina sparkle in it, but I don't think the camera's picking that up. So I'm really, really pleased to have got those off the needles finally, because I had one and that was it, sitting in the bag since Christmas. So Christmas Eve cast on is now finished in May. Well, they were finished in April, so that was nice to get those finally done and complete. So that is my finished object number 2. I'll probably lose count as I go through these, but I'll keep sharing. The next of the languishing sock whips, and these I'd cast on as part of the Fluff Along cowl that we held, that I held in my podcast group on Ravelry, and I do have a winner to announce, which I shall do in just a moment. But I knit these rather extravagant superwash merino and mohair socks as one of my Fluff Along entries, and you can see how fluffy, if you can pick up the halo on there. They are super fluffy, super squishy, obviously because the yarn's held double, and I think they're going to be perfect for just cozy times at home when you want something super luxurious on your feet, perhaps, you know, just curled up doing a bit of knitting, watching a bit of TV. And I really love the way they've come out. These were knit in Candy Shop yarns from my friend Deborah of Candy Shop Yarns and of the Meanwhile at the Castle podcast, and Liquid Candy in the Shirley Temple is the colourway, which is the pink, and the mini came with it in the beautiful sort of spearmint green, and the mohair is her Cotton Candy in the bubblegum colourway. So I'm not sure if she has these in her shop, but I think she does have the Cotton Candy in her shop at the moment. So I think they have made the most gorgeous pair of socks. Now somehow I've managed to make these a little bit too small for me, so these will be going off to my daughter Lulu. They'll be a little bit big for her, but ideal for just sort of lounging socks, and she has taken a bit of a fancy to them, so they will be off to Lulu now for lots of snuggle times. So that's my second sock whip, and that means I have got no more single socks sitting in project bags, so that's a bit of a win. I'm very pleased to have got those tidied up and off the needles. While I was on that sock kick, I remember that there was a pattern that I had bought from Jules and Amy a while ago, which is these beautiful Soul Sisters socks. And at the time I'd bought the pattern, completely fallen in love with Jules's version here on the cover, and I sorted out quite a few sort of minis and scraps to try and replicate this beautiful rainbow that Jules has done here. And all those minis had sat in the project bag for probably quite a few months, and I thought now's the time. And the reason I put them off for such a long while was because I'd never really been very good, or not really tried to knit toe-up socks. I'd always been a cuff down heel flap and gusset sock knitter, so I was a little bit apprehensive about knitting toe up. But I thought, well, I had loads of time on my hands. I actually watched 2 seasons of The Crown on Netflix in about 3 days. So I was, there was lots and lots of time to be had. So I decided that it was the best, as you know, time that there was ever going to be to get to grips with toe-up socks. And I'm happy to say I have got my own pair of beautiful rainbow Soul Sisters socks. Now within the pattern, Jules actually gives you links to a couple of tutorials that she's done, video tutorials for the cast on of the toe up and her beanie toe, and also for the Godet heel, which is really, really clever and so simple to follow and gives such a neat finish because you don't get any holes here, and it gives a really, really neat finish. I really love the way that heel fits. It's comfortable, it's easy to knit, and I think I'm a bit of a toe up convert now, because obviously once, and those of you that knit toe up will already know this, but once you've done the toe and knit up the foot and you've done your heel shaping, then everything's done, and all you have to do is just knit up the leg as long as you want. It's great if you've got a limited amount of yarn and you want to make sure you utilize everything that you have. And I'm really, really pleased with how they've turned out. I think they look really pretty. I've done them opposite, so this was the first sock I knit. No, this was the first sock I knit, and then I just reversed the minis, so that I cast off with the pink here and then cast on the toe with the pink and worked them in reverse. Now, scrappy socks I found in the past to be a little bit of a nuisance, because once you'd finished knitting the sock, you then had all the ends to deal with. But again, Jules has given you information within the pattern of her method of dealing with the ends as you knit. So when you get to the end, all you have to do is just trim off the ends, because everything's all neatly knitted and woven in, and just enjoy your socks. So that was a game changer for me with scrappy socks. So totally enjoyed knitting these, and they are so, so pretty. I love them on my bunny blockers, and I think, and I know this is going to sound a bit ridiculous, I don't think I'm going to wear these. I think these are just going to sit so that I can admire them, just hang them on the little hook on the edge of my storage unit, just over there on that little, am I pointing? Yeah, there's a little sort of like hook thing. I normally have these sock blockers hanging there. I think I'm just going to hang them up so I can admire them. They really make me happy to look at these lovely colours, and the fact that I achieved this really pretty pattern. I didn't show you, I don't know if you can see because it does run along the top, but these are like a feather and fan. I think Amy calls it old shale in the pattern, but it just runs up the front of the foot, and it's absolutely stunning. So completely in love with these socks, and they were just the thing I needed. I was feeling properly sorry for myself, proper poorly, and to sit and knit these was giving me great joy. So lovely, lovely rainbow Soul Sisters socks. I loved them so much that as soon as these were finished, I cast on another pair, and I'm going to show you those now. So this is a total of 4 pairs of socks, and these are the same pattern, so Soul Sisters socks, but this time these are knitted in a set of minis that I bought again at Fibre East last year, and I bought them from Maya at the Wool Barn. And these are that's the labels, a set of 520 gram minis, so there was 100 grams, I knew there'd be plenty. It's the Beach Huts set, so 100% superwash merino, and the colourways are Little Sand, Sea Salt, Duck Egg, Eden and Vanilla. So again, I work them slightly differently. So I've started this one with the vanilla, and this one I think might be the Sea Salt, and you can see how completely different they look from these, but equally beautiful. So these are much more sort of variegated and speckled, but these solid Beach Huts colours I think work really, really well. So I think basically that pattern would look really nice if you did just one single skein of yarn in a speckle or a plain, or some solid minis or variegated minis or scraps, or pretty much anything. Such a pretty pattern that I think it would, there's not a yarn that it wouldn't work with. Again, you can see the beautiful lace work down the front, the lovely beanie toe, and the Godet heel here. I used a stretchy bind off, which was I think Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off, just to make sure they didn't get too tight at the top. And these are a little bit smaller because I've knitted these as a gift. So now I've shown them on the podcast, they can actually go off to the recipient, and I hope she'll like them. I really like them. I wish they did fit me, but I purposely knitted them to her size. Second pair of Soul Sister socks. So big thank you to Jules and Amy for such an amazing pattern. I've really enjoyed, and I don't think it'll be the last time I knit these. I think next time I would like to knit these in just a single skein. But again, if you've got minis or scraps, don't be afraid, because there are no ends to sewing if you follow Jules's method of dealing with those as you knit the socks. So that was 4 pairs of socks. So I'm feeling very smug at the moment. So just gather them all up. They've all been sitting. So there they are, all the finished socks. And that means all the blockers are free now. So 2 pairs to be gifted, 1 to Lulu, 1 to somebody else, and a pair for decoration and a pair for the drawer. So I think that's quite a good result. I'm going to pop these over here, and I shall grab the next finished object. I'll just move this as well. This is what the Soul Sisters socks lived in the whole time. This is a really nice little comfortable bag. I just have this on the bed next to me. And this is the one that I got from Jilly Makes at the Curious Handmade Country House Retreat. And I think Jilly has got these in her shop, so highly recommended, just fabulous, especially for all those little minis and scraps of yarn. Okay, so whips are being tidied up. I've got less and less languishing projects lying around, which is making me feel very organised, very virtuous. And something that's been on the needles for a while, again, since before Christmas, in fact, since Advent or Knitvent, which is where the pattern was from, is Helen Stewart's Dust of Snow wrap. And it is finished. So I'm going to attempt to show you this. I will stand up and show you at some point. My Dust of Snow wrap has all been knitted out of shades of grey and neutrals, because I wanted to get a very wearable accessory, and I've got quite a lot of different coloured shawls and wraps and things like that, and I wanted to have something that would pretty much go with anything. So you can see this one does the trick. I've used lots of random yarns for this. I'm going to stand up so I can show you. It is quite long, so show you the length of it. I didn't block it aggressively. Oops. So all the way through, and I just followed a pattern of going light grey to this this shade here. I'll try and show you in the middle. This one here is actually Stella Bella from Mr. B's, inspired by Claire and John's beautiful dog Stella. So I use that as a sort of like the mid-tone, so light grey, Stella Bella, and then on to the darker grey, and that I just followed that all the way through. I think it's worked out really well, and because it is a dust of snow, it has the halo. So I don't know if the camera's picking that up. Not quite as halo-y after blocking as it was before blocking, and that was using Mint Bee yarn in the Signet colourway, and this is their Bee Fluff, 72% kid mohair, 28% silk. I bought 3 skeins of this back at Festival in, I think it was about October, November, round about then. It was obviously in time for Knitvent, and I ended up using 2 skeins. I did bind this off before the recommended 100%. The pattern was designed for 24 mini skeins, so to use your yarn advent calendar, but it was long enough, more than long enough for what I wanted it for, And I wanted to get it off the needles, if I'm honest. I kind of thought, I was reaching the end of... I did miss it once it was gone. It was rhythmic and I missed it. But I really wanted to get my whips off the needles. So I called it a day at around about, probably about 75, 80%. So it's not very much shorter than the original pattern would have suggested. But it is plenty long enough, and I love it, and I'm pleased that it's finished. I didn't want it to just sit there. I didn't want to be knitting it through the summer, being mohair and wool. I thought it would be a little bit tedious to knit through the warmer months. And I'm not sure how I'm going to style this yet. I think just almost like a big sort of scarf. Obviously it doesn't go with the sapilla, but I think in the winter it's going to be absolutely amazing to have all this lovely mohair, and it will go with pretty much anything. So there's plenty of length here to style this. I'm not going to actually end up having a problem with it. So that's the Dust of Snow wrap. So I'm really pleased to have got that off the needles. I'm really pleased about a lot of things, it would seem. But it's nice to get things complete. It's nice to get projects finished and off the needles and blocked, and know that they're not just sitting there not getting any attention. It does not worry me, but I do get a little bit twitchy if I've got too many things that have sat around for too long. I then either want to finish them or frog them, and a couple of things that have actually been frogged recently, one of which was my Volt sweater. I decided that wasn't really working out. My intarsia wasn't great, and for a couple of other reasons, so I frogged that. And I frogged, what else did I frog? Or a bit of my little cabin sweater, but I'll tell you a little bit of that when I get to whips. So that's the Dust of Snow all done. And there's one final finished object to share with you. And this is a big one. And this is my Find Your Fade by Andrea Mowry. And it is done. And it is huge. And I don't know how I'm even going to get it all. There's no way I'm going to get it all in the frame. So where do we start? Let's try and find the beginning. So we started, this was a set of yarns that I bought from Amy of when she was still Little Tailoress, and she did these Find Your Fade kits. So starting point was here and faded through to the peach section, and then into a variegated sort of speckled peach, and then we get some more of this lovely sort of turquoise aqua colour coming through, and into the grey blues. Oh, it's so big. And then finishing off with a sort of appley green with the speckles and all the way down to the end. So as I said, I'm going to stand up again because this is a bit of a beast. I need to move the chair, and there is absolutely no way I'm going to get it all in the thing, because I could barely fit this along the length of the spare room with the blocking mats out to actually get it all blocked. So as you can see, it's got a few creases where it's been folded up and sat on the bed, but I'm sure it'll be fine. And again, I didn't block this aggressively. I blocked it just enough to let the lace show and just to sort of straighten it out. But if I'd have blocked it more aggressively, I think I would have had to gone through to next door to actually finish off blocking it. So yeah, it's a big shawl. Again, lots of people have said styling it is not the easiest of things to do, but I think with a little bit of, but it is gorgeous. And I've seen lots of people put a knot in the end of their longer shawls like this, which I think sometimes can look quite nice. It's a bit bulky there, but you get the idea. It's big, it's squishy, it's lots of garter. The colours work really nicely together. Actually goes with the sapilla because it's got this lovely aqua sort of tealy turquoise in it, and I think this will get some use. And I think it's the perfect, you can sort of use it as a a wrap, or almost like a little blanket if you were really chilly. So yeah, really happy to have got this complete. Really, really pleased actually to have got this complete. There was a lot of knitting, and it was quite daunting at the outset to think, because I knew, you know, so many people had knitted this in the past, how big it was, but it actually flew off the needles. I think it's the whole thing of wanting to get to the next colour change and the next fade, get the next yarn in, and it was just a really simple pattern. If you're somebody that hasn't knit this and have liked it, and you've got some skeins of yarn in your stash that you think will work, it's a really, really enjoyable knit, and I would recommend it. So Find Your Fade from Andrea Mowry is also off my needles. So that brings us to the end of all the finished objects, 7 in total. Don't be expecting that next episode. I think we'll be lucky if there's one, but this was a real sort of war on whips, if you like. And if it wasn't for my knitting, I think I would have gone quite bonkers during my recovery period. But yeah, definitely having all these lovely projects on kept me sane. So hopefully you enjoyed seeing all those. I'm going to take this off now because there's a lot of yarn here around my neck. I'm going to end up overheating badly. Just throw that on there. Right, okay, so shall we get on to some winners from the giveaway and the cow? Right, we have 2 winners to announce, and the first is for the Fluff Along cow. My hair's gone all fluffy now, talking of Fluff Alongs. The Fluff Along cow was a knit along that we did here on the podcast and in the podcast group, and it was basically to knit something holding mohair double with another yarn, or mohair on its own. Could have been anything. Socks, as you saw, I knitted mohair and merino socks. A shawl, like the Dust of Snow wrap, all manner of things, and there were some beautiful items in the finished object thread. And the prize for the Fluff Along winner is this beautiful yarn that was donated by Kelly of Lay Family Yarns. So thank you again, Kelly. It's been a while. It's been lovingly looked after on the shelf of yarn over there. Waiting for this time when I finally got around to podcasting and announcing the winner. So you've got a skein of DK Superwash Merino Nylon in the hot chocolate colourway, which is super pretty, and the fluff element is this natural floof, which is Surrey Alpaca and Mulberry Silk in just a natural colour. So I think these will go beautifully together, and I'm seeing a gorgeous hat in these yarns, but of course that's entirely up to the winner what she decides to do with them. And the winner of these lovely skeins is Caroline. And Caroline, your username on Ravelry is Glengarriff-2007. You were post 12 out of 22 posts. I use a random generator to choose the winner. And you knitted a beautiful hat. So you obviously like your hat, so hopefully you can choose something really nice to knit with this yarn. So Caroline, if you can get in touch with me, let me know your address and I'll get this sent out to you. And thank you to everyone that joined in with the knit along, and all your projects were beautiful, but most of all, congratulations to Caroline for winning the Lay Family yarn. I'm going to pop that over here with the finished objects, nice and safe. We have another winner to announce. Now, you will know that, well, you might not know, but we have actually reached now just over 1,100 subscribers on this podcast. And on the last episode, we'd just gone over 1,000, and I announced a little giveaway to celebrate that fact. I can't believe how many people have subscribed to the podcast. There's lots and lots of podcasts out there. There's lots of much more professionally put together podcasts, and maybe more interesting podcasts on knitting and fibre arts and stuff out there. So the fact that you've chosen to subscribe to Bumble Stitches and you pop in and watch and leave me comments and interact with me is so much appreciated. It's something I really, really enjoy doing, and if you guys weren't watching, it'll be a bit pointless. So a big thank you for that. So we did a little giveaway, and the giveaway prize is, again, there's some mohair going on here. These are both yarns from Nora George. This one is the Super Sock, which is 75-25 superwash merino nylon base in the Sugar Rose colourway. Gorgeous speckles. And this is the Raspberry Mohair Silk, which goes rather lovely with it. And along with that prize, this was donated by my lovely friend Paula of Eva Faith Shop, and it's some stitch markers with a little sheep and the little ring type ones, and a gorgeous little sheep lavender bag. And I think Paula uses lavender from her own garden in Hampshire to fill her lavender bags. So I've left it in the packaging so that obviously it didn't lose any of its lovely lavenderiness. So that is the prize for the 1,000 subscriber giveaway. Now obviously all the comments, well, I've got fluff, mohair fluff on my lip gloss. All the comments on YouTube, I then pasted a link into a comment generator, or that I googled, just a random comment generator. There were around about 140 entries, so it's pretty astonishing. And the winner of this gorgeous yarn and the set from Eva Faith is Lucinda Jeffrey. And Lucinda, congratulations, thank you for your comment. If you want to get in touch with me, either on Instagram under Bumble Stitches, send me a DM, or on Ravelry, as I'm on as Bumble Stitches, just drop me a message there with your address details, and I'll get your yarn and stitch marker set sent off to you. So congratulations, and thank you to everybody that commented. You all said just such lovely things, and you know, I know sometimes it's you're taking time out to actually stop what you're doing and type a comment. So anytime you do that, it's much appreciated. So thank you all very much. I'll put Lucinda's prize over here with Caroline's prize. So that's the giveaways done. Getting very thirsty today. Shall we talk about some whips? I've had fun getting rid of some of those outstanding whips, as I showed you in the FO section. And I really didn't want to get back in the situation of having project bags just strewn about everywhere with things that I'd started, and some of them I knew I would finish, some of them I knew I probably wouldn't. I just didn't want to get into that situation again. So I think it was on Sandy by the Lakeside's podcast. She was talking about a plan for having 3 whips on the go at any one time. One to be a shawl, one to be socks, and one to be a sweater. I think that's the way I understood it anyway, but it sounds like a really good plan. So I'm calling it the 3 S's, so sweater, shawl, socks. And what I've done is I've gone through my Ravelry queue and I've kind of repositioned things so that there's a block of 3 projects in order. So there's always a sweater, a shawl and some socks. And if there isn't a pair of socks for that particular group that I wanted to knit, then it can be something else small like a hat. But never more than 1 sweater or shawl at a time. So this is the plan. Now there is always a flaw in a plan, but I will show you, let me show you what I'm knitting. No, let's stay on track. Let me show you what the plan is. So I just need to grab these project bags. You can tell I haven't podcasted for a while, can't you? Because this is just all over the place, even though I've got notes. So hopefully you're all bearing with me. So I have got in here my little Tailoress bag, which is gorgeous. In here I've got a planned sock whip. In here, which is one of my Bumble Stitches Liberty and Denim bags, I have got a shawl whip, a whip to be. And in here, my La Bien-Aimée bag, I have got a sweater to be. So this is going to be the way forward for me, and I feel quite excited and energized in my sort of future knitting plans by this. And then in another bag over there somewhere, I've got all the yarn ready for the next 3 shawl, socks and sweater. So you can see how this is all going to work out. Shall I show you what's in these first before I move on to my actual whips? Okay, let's start with socks. So as I mentioned, this is a lovely little drawstring bag that I got from Amy of Little Tailoress. I think it was the Happy Trails set. There was some self-striped sock yarn and a stitch marker. Really, really pretty. And it came with a lovely little notions pouch as well. So I love, love, love that. Now in here I have got some yarn. It's like a complete sock kit in here. So I've got my needles ready. I've got a gorgeous little, if I can untangle it, a little donut stitch marker, sugary donut, progress keeper. Some fabulous yarn that I picked up from the Knitting Shed. This is their Ainsworth and Prynne yarn. So there's the mini, it's like a charcoaly grey, and the dusty pink. The pink is called Ointment, and the mini didn't have a tag, and it's their slubby sock base, 85% superwash merino, 50% viscose nep, 100 grams, 400 meters. So fell in love with these at I think that was Festival as well, I think it was. Love these and thought they'd make a really nice pair of socks. So the socks that I'm going for are these Fair Isle flower socks. So I'm thinking obviously the main colour would be the pink and the Fair Isle in the charcoal grey. I thought they'd look really, really nice. Now this is a free pattern on Ravelry, so if you just search in Ravelry for the Fair Isle flower socks, and it then takes you to the designer's website or blog, and you can just I just printed it off from there. So the designer, they are from Candice DeWitt, handmade in Ohio, and they look really, really pretty. So I thought that would make a nice pair of Fair Isle socks. So that will be the sock whip that I have coming up. So I'm going to put this all away carefully so I don't lose it. And I'm trying, when I'm choosing the 3 projects that are going to be in that particular group, in that Triple S sweater, shawl, socks group, I'm trying to be mindful that I didn't want sort of 3 colourwork projects, or 3 really colourful projects, or 3 really neutral projects, or do you see what I mean? So there's a nice mix so that you don't get, you know, as a knitter sometimes you have a fancy for knitting on a particular thing. You fancy doing some colourwork, or you fancy doing something quite colourful, or something quite neutral, or you know, something that's lacy, or something that's plain, just vanilla knitting. So I thought if I've got within those 3 projects, I've always got a sort of a diverse mix. There's always going to be something that I actually want to knit on during that cycle of projects. So this is hopefully making sense. So that's the sock project. The next is the shawl project, and this is going to be knit again. I've got my project bags ready with yarn. I've also got, and this is really fun, this is one part of planning projects that I really, really enjoy, is actually getting everything together that you need for that project. So I've got my yarn, which is from Gather on Etsy, and this is Meta. This is her hand-dyed, naturally hand-dyed yarn, and this is, I bought 1 skein of this at the Country House Retreat, and this is 70% alpaca, 20% silk, 10% cashmere. You can see it's just completely drapey and soft, and this has been naturally dyed with Alchemilla molis and iron. I think iron is used as the mordant. I sound like I know what I'm talking about with natural iron. I really don't, but it's just what I kind of understand. So that's the yarn, and then I realised that the pattern I wanted to do needed 2 skeins, so I picked up another one. I've already got that caked up, and I wound that on my, you can see it up there, my really nice wooden yarn winder that Justin bought me for my birthday, and it makes a really nice yarn cake, sort of a bit taller than my other one did, but winds really nicely. So I've got one caked up, one in the skein. What am I knitting with it though, you're asking? So this lovely making magazine came. I get mine from a yarn story in Bath. Carmen ships these out pretty much on publishing date. I love Making Magazine. I love the fact that it's got knitting and sewing and articles and just all manner of lovely eye candy for us makers. So I haven't got a subscription, but I do make sure I get it every time it comes out. I've got all the editions so far. And there's a pattern in here which I should have put a bookmark in, so I'm going to try and find it now. Ah, that was good. Now this is the Xerophyte shawl. So you can see a good image of it here. I think this is really plain, but it's got so much sort of structure and detail in it. When I say plain, that's not the right word. It's a simple but really beautiful knit. I think the fact that it's in one colour with fine details makes it a really stunning piece. It's by Amy Vandelar, and she's Baroque Pearl on Instagram. I'm really looking forward to getting this one on the needles. I think it's going to work beautifully in Meta's yarn. It's not quite the same shade of green, but this is one of those projects when you see it and you see it in the yarn that the sample's knitting it, and you think, I want mine to look like that. And I do that quite a lot because I'm rubbish at choosing colours. But I think Meta's yarn is going to work beautifully for this. So I have my pattern in the Making Magazine. I've got my yarn, and I'm ready with some pretty little progress keepers that I got from Paula from Eva Faith shop. A little oyster shell there, and this pretty little beads and pearl one, which I think will look lovely on there. And I'm pretty much good to go with that. And because this is the kind of person I am, I try to match my projects to my project bag. Am I the only person that does that? But as I said, it's just pulling all the things together that you need that I find a really fun process. And I did enjoy doing that, and it's sort of like spurred me on to get these things underway. So that's the second of the S's. That's the shawl component. And the final one in this La Bien Aimée bag is the sweater. And this is going to be the Tenya. Have I got an image on here? Did I print out the... Yeah, I did. So Tenya, you probably all know this pattern. So many people have knit this and they all look gorgeous. It's another one by Caitlin Hunter of Boylan Knitworks, who's quickly becoming my most knit designer, certainly in garments. Obviously the Sapilla is by Caitlin Hunter. I've done the Tecumseh, the Birkin. I'm doing the Soldot now, which I'll show you in a moment, which is a current whip. So yeah, she's quickly my most knit designer. So Tenya, I did start knitting this last year in some very luxurious yarn that I got from the Wool Barn, which is a camel and silk blend. But it was one of those where the pattern's beautiful, the yarn's beautiful, but they weren't actually meant for each other. So I'm going to do it again, and this time, are you ready for this? This is just gorgeous. This is Ruby Slipper from Giddy Aunt Yarns, and that red, you can see, actually the camera's picking it up beautifully. You can see all the different depths of the red there, how rich it is. I think this is absolutely beautiful. It's their platinum sock base. It's 75/25 superwash merino and nylon, and I'm totally in love with this colourway. Not really a summer colour, I know, but I do run quite hot anyway, so I can see me wearing Tenya in sort of cooler days anyway. So I just love the colour, and I think with the lace work it's going to look really beautiful. I caked up a skein already, So that's done. I knitted a swatch. It's not a huge swatch, but it was enough for me to check what needle size I would need, because I know Tanya's been quite a little bit unpredictable with needle sizes. And in here as well, a while ago I bought a set of minis from Vicky at West Green Loft Yarns, and they were Wizard of Oz minis, and then I remembered that in there was a little pair of Ruby Slippers Progress Keeper. So how perfect are they to go on my Ruby Slippers Tanya? So that's all ready to go as well. And if that's not incentive for me to keep up with my knitting and not let whips languish, I don't know what is. As long as I don't get into a state of mind where I just think, oh, I'm casting everything on anyway, which I will try not to do, I think it's going to be a good way of moving forward. So here they all are. So that's the next cycle of 3 ready to go. I'm going to pop them down and tell you what I've got on the needles at the moment. And what have I got on the needles at the moment? Okay, time for a drinky. This is going to be a long podcast. So Caitlin Hunter again, and this is the Soldotna crop, which is all over Instagram at the moment. Pretty much has been living on the front page of Ravelry. And it's a pattern that I thought, oh, I really like it. Oh, it's not for me, it's a crop. And I think lots of people probably have the same thought. If you're a little bit on the larger side, you see these patterns and you see them on lots of much slimmer and sometimes younger knitters, and you think, oh, it's really not for me. It's such a nice pattern, but I don't think I should knit that. And then as more and more people knit it, you notice more and more different body shapes wearing it, different ages wearing it, people styling it differently with dresses and shirts underneath and shirts and leggings and all sorts of layering sort of combinations. And then you start to realise it's really, really nice, and actually it could be for me. So with that in mind, I decided I was going to knit it. I mentioned earlier that I did frog my Volt sweater, and that Volt sweater had, it was a DK, and I'd used Coop Knits Sockshare DK for the main body, which was a charcoal grey. So I thought, well, I have got that DK, and I had another skein that I bought. Well, let me show you. I put a post on Instagram of some yarn choices, and everybody helped me out because I'm not great at choosing. I know what colours I like, but I'm not so good at putting colours together. So these are the colours that I'm using for my Soldotna. The bottom 2 are Fibre Spates Vivacious DK. This one at the bottom is Strawberry, and this one is Sea Glass. The next one is from Mint Bee. I'll show you the tag for that in a minute. I believe that one's Strawberry Smoothie. And this one at the top is the Sockshare DK from Coop Knits, and I think it's, I can't remember the colour name, but it's like a very dark charcoal grey. So let me just show you. So that's the Sockshare DK. Colourway is Tartarus. The Mint Bee is the oh, they've all fallen over, is the Strawberry Smoothie, and that one is their Bee Blissful. It's a DK, 70% alpaca, 20 silk, 10% cashmere. It's a different blend from everything else. Everything else is superwash merino and nylon, but it is such a gorgeous yarn. It's really squishy. It's got a lovely sheen to it and a little bit of a halo from the alpaca, but it's working okay. And then the other 2 yarns were, as I mentioned, Fibre Spates Vivacious DK in Sea Glass and Strawberry. So they are working out really well. This is such a quick knit. It's amazing. I'm really, really enjoying it. So here's my progress. Now it's at that awkward stage where it's curling up. It's not really great to show you on camera, but you can kind of get the idea. So I'm doing really well on the colour work. And this was the colour that I wasn't sure about. I had a couple of options. I knew that I was definitely going to use the grey because I needed to use that because I already had it and I had, you know, plenty for the quantity needed. I really like the sea glass and the strawberry smoothie, but it was this other colour. But I think the strawberry is working out really, really well, and I like the way it's knitting up. I have actually got a strawberry smoothie on here as a little progress keeper. And it's not going to be too long before I finish the colourwork yoke and separate for the sleeves. And then, as you can see from the pattern, so I'm about here on this little bit of vertical striping, then there's this bit here, and then we go into the bottom section, and the main body I'm going to do in the sea glass, and that's going to have little those flea stitches in the strawberry smoothie and the strawberry. So I think it's going to be really nice. I'm going to do mine a little bit longer. The pattern, as suggested, is quite cropped, so I might do one a little bit longer. And again, on the sleeves, once I've finished these little Y shapes here, I think I'll do a little tiny bit of this pattern and then do the rib, just so that it's more, because it does finish, photographs that I've seen of people wearing it, it does finish pretty much here, sort of on the armhole. That's the widest part of my arm, and I don't think that's going to be too flattering. So I think if I do sleeves this kind of length that I've got here on Sapilla, I think just sort of almost, you know, covering the fleshiest part of my arm is what I'm looking for. So that's the Soldotna crop, and I'm really, really enjoying knitting this. It's not going to be on the needles for long. It is a quick knit, but it's a really fun knit. So if you've been on the fence about it, if you think, oh, it's, you know, it's not for me, give it a go, especially if you've got some DK in your stash. It doesn't use a lot of yarn. You can use fingering held double for some of the colour choice, you know, the colours, if you haven't got enough in all DK. And I would highly recommend it. I mean, obviously I haven't finished it yet, so I can't tell you what it's like to wear. But if I keep cracking on with this, hopefully next podcast I'll be able to show you. And it's just such a fun knit. Really, really enjoying this. So that's a sweater on. So the rules are now that until this is done, I can't start the tenure. I can start the Xerophyte shawl because I don't have any shawls on the needles, and I can start the Fair Isle flower socks because I don't have any socks on the needles. So it's working really well at the moment. It's a really nice blend of projects. Now, other whips that are still hanging around. One is the Little Cabin sweater, which is another Caitlin Hunter pattern. I should start a fan club, really, shouldn't I? Or have some sort of badge. Yeah, Little Cabin, I've shared on the podcast quite a few times, and I was having problems with the sizing of it because I didn't think I had enough yarn to knit the sleeves. It's a couple of podcasts back, or might be the last episode if you're interested in that discussion. Excuse me. But I decided in the end that looking at the amount of yarn I had left, I'd knitted the whole body, I'd knitted one full sleeve, I was into the next sleeve, and I had a ton of yarn left. And I thought, well, all I've got to knit after this is the yoke. So I decided in my wisdom to rip all of the bodywork out, and there was about 16 inches of the Little Cabin. Where is it? I can show you. Where are you, Little Cabin? I'm just going to grab it so I can show you what I mean. Okay, so it's in my sparkly basket. So it's this pattern. You can see it's all bobble work. It's a beautiful pattern. I've got a sleeve here that's done, so you can see how the pattern is. These are the little cabins at the bottom, and then you've got all this bobble work. This is a Debbie Bliss. I can't remember the name of the yarn. It's a Debbie Bliss. It's discontinued, but it's got a nice fleck in it. It's sort of like a felted tweed, that kind of style. So I sat and had a frog party, wound everything back up again and popped it in my basket, and I'm going to knit the neck size up of the body, which is a lot of knitting. There was quite a lot of hours, many hours spent knitting, especially those bobble rounds tend to go on forever. But I thought, well, I love it enough that I really want it to fit well and be a good finished object. So that was the plan. But I think I'm actually going to, especially in keeping with my new sweater shawl socks regime, I'm going to just pop this into hibernation for a while because it is a winter project. So I think maybe once I've finished Soul.Net and Tenure, I'll go back to it so that it's ready for the autumn. And I'm just going to leave it in hibernation until then. So, but it will get done because I love it so much that I just really want that sweater to be done. So that's almost all the whips. The other whip I've still got is the Deshane sweater, which is the black linen one, which I won't get out yet. And my main problem with that is it needs to be seamed, and I hate seaming, and I did have a go at it and it looked awful. The yarn was quite splitty. It's like a linen cotton blend. It was really splitty. The seams look lumpy. It's black. It's hard to see. So it's, again, it's just been put into some sort of like hibernation mode at the moment, and I'll make a decision on what I want to do with that at a later date. So that is where I am with all the whips. I'm just going to check the notes because I have no idea if we're on track or not. Okay, I'm going to share with you now some recent acquisitions, and I've got another little giveaway for you, and then I'm going to have a chat about some yarny outings. So let's have a look at the stash. I was talking about Terry of Fine Fish Yarns earlier when I was talking about this this colourway here in my Sapilla, and Terry has recently dyed some beautiful yarns. I mean, her yarns have always been gorgeous, but just of late her dyeing has gone off the scale of the gorgeousness scale. So if you don't know Terry, she's on Instagram as Fine Fish Yarns, and she's got I think it's an Etsy, I'm sure it's an Etsy shop, but the link to her shop is on her Instagram. And if you don't know, I would definitely recommend you check her out. She has been dyeing up these kits, and this is for the Spellman sweater, which is a sweater designed by Tristan of Dragon Horde Fibres or Dragon Horde Yarns. I can't remember. Tristan of Dragon Horde, and it's all been inspired by the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which is on Netflix, which was something else that I binged on while I was poorly. And the second season's out now, but certainly in the first season, the character of Sabrina was wearing some really gorgeous, they look like hand knits, but the sweater she was wearing were really lovely. So this is inspired by that, and this is the Spellman yarn. So there's a superwash merino blend and a mohair as well, because it's held double. So I've got 3 of each here to do a Spellman sweater, and it's gorgeous. It's it's plummy, and the colour isn't quite right on the camera. It's much richer. It's looking more sort of dusty pinky purple on the camera, but it's really quite rich and gorgeous. So that's going to be a future sweater, so I'm treating myself to that. I also treated myself to, this was a bit random really, I don't normally go for yarns, sort of Stylecraft yarns. When I did a lot of crochet, I used to buy a lot of Stylecraft yarns for crochet, and I'm going to talk about crochet in a moment. But I saw this on Sandra of Cherry Hearts podcast. She's one of the Stylecraft blog stars, and they were all invited to do their own colourway for this head over heels yarn, and it's a really nice yarn actually. When it arrived, I bought it from the Wool Warehouse, which if you're in the UK you're probably familiar with. They have a great range of all sorts. That Fibre Spates DK yarn for the Soul.Net came from there. I'd bought a load of cream mohair for another sweater, which I'll share with you another time. Yeah, and I saw this and popped it in the basket as well, just to get it over the free shipping allowance. And it's really, really nice. I was really pleasantly surprised. Yeah, the colourway is designed by Sandra of Cherry Heart, and it's called, has it got a colourway name? Aussie, O-S-S-I-E. And you can see from on here, I don't think the printing has really come out the right sort of colours, but it goes from the bluey aquas and goes into peach. And it's really, really pretty. And if you can see inside how that's going to change. And when it arrived, I thought, oh, it's really lovely yarn. It's a 75-25 superwash wool and nylon. It doesn't say merino, it just says 75 superwash wool, 25% nylon, 400 metres, perfect sock yarn, head over heels. And I thought that'd be nice for a future giveaway, just to put in with a prize parcel. So I picked that one up. And I was also contacted by Lana from the Yarn Lab UK. She sent me a message on Instagram and said, would I be interested in some yarn from her? She's an indie dyer here in the UK. Would I like some yarn for a podcast giveaway? And I said, yeah, that would be amazing. Thank you. It's really generous and kind. And she sent the most beautiful yarn. I'm going to show it to you now. There's going to be some crinkling and rustling, but I make no apology because the yarn is gorgeous. So here we have a gorgeous set of minis from the Yarn Lab UK. She's on Etsy as the Yarn Lab UK at etsy.com. I don't know if you can see that on there. So do look her up on her shop. She's also on Instagram as the Yarn Lab UK. And these are an English country garden set of minis. And the colourways are daffodil, fireflies. Sorry, daffodil, fireflies. That one, the green is moths. Meadow Sweet is the next one. I'm trying to do this all backwards. The next one is flax, bluebirds, lady's smock, heartsease, butterflies and hollyhocks. Aren't they beautiful? So you can see them all there in all their glory. And there are so many gorgeous things going on with minis and scrappy projects and things like that at the moment that I think these would work so well with. And there's 10 gram minis in there, 75-25 superwash merino and nylon. So this is going to be a giveaway for you lovely viewers. And there's also a little strawberry stitch marker in here and a little sweetie and some lovely fruit tea. So I thought that would make a really lovely giveaway. So thank you, Lana, for that. Lana didn't stop there. She was so generous. She sent some yarn for me as well, which I was like really chuffed because yarn for me. So she sent me these two beautiful skeins, and this blue one is Dobby Sock of Freedom, which I absolutely love that colourway name. And look at these speckles. Now, I love all indie dyed yarn, don't get me wrong, but some dyers really get the speckling thing right, and Lana is obviously one of those. All these gorgeous speckles here, and then through into the main sort of like colourway with the very soft turquoisey blue and the natural and the greys. Stunning, absolutely gorgeous. It's a 75-25 superwash merino nylon sock. And the other one is china plates with kittens, no doubt inspired by Professor Umbridge. And what I thought was actually really nice, her pink office with all the china plates with kittens. It was really fun. I went to the Harry Potter studios and saw that. I thought it was quite cool. And this one has got obviously lots of lovely pinks, but then again all these lovely speckles, and there's greens and blues and greys. So gorgeous. So a big thank you to Lana for sending these to me and these for you. That was so generous and kind. So do pop along and have a look at Lana's Instagram and her Etsy shop. And I thought it would be really good fun if we had a chat about minis in the Ravelry group. I'll start a thread up because your comment in this thread will be your entry to win these. But basically I need some help because I've got this. This is my crochet blanket and I'm stuck with it. And I need some help or inspiration from you lovely knitters and crocheters out there with what I should do. So I'll start a giveaway thread for Lana's Minis, and in that thread all I need you to do is tell me what scrappy projects you're knitting or crocheting on at the moment. If you're using minis or if you're using leftover scraps from other projects or things that you swap with people or from advent calendars, anything like that. Tell me what you're knitting or crocheting and give me some ideas, because I don't think I can continue with this granny stripe blanket, because crocheting on this fingering weight yarn, I mean, you can see I did quite a bit, is double bed width. So but knitting on this fingering weight with a 3mm hook makes my hands so sore, and I don't think I can persevere much longer with this, and it's not really grown from this for probably best part of the year. So is there anything I could do with this other than just use it as like a runner at the end of the bed? Is there any way I could utilise this to make something out of it? Or, well, I just don't know. I don't know what to do with it. There's so many hours of work and I love it. I love all the yarns that are in it. There's a lot of sort of memories and different projects. But yeah, I need some inspiration or some help as to what I could do with this and what other scrappy projects you're working on. Obviously I did Jules's, Jules and Amy's Soul Sister socks. They were scrappy socks. So you could make a gorgeous pair of socks with these. Absolutely stunning. They would be perfect for that pattern. I had a go at the Beekeeper's quilt, which is by a lady whose name I can't remember. It's on Ravelry, and basically you make these little hexy puffs. They're little hexagon shape, sort of like a patchwork, like English paper piecing quilt, but you knit these little hexagon shapes and stuff them with sort of like toy stuffing, and then join them all together so you get like a padded quilt. Didn't like knitting those. Don't think I can carry on with the crochet, so I need some ideas. So if you can give me some ideas or tell me what you're knitting with minis or scraps at the moment, or crocheting. I probably wouldn't want to do another crochet project because this is really, as I said, making my hands hurt. But I'll be interested to hear what you're making, and that will constitute your entry for Lana's lovely minis that she sent us. So that's the new giveaway. So I hope you are going to enjoy having a chat about scrappy projects on the Ravelry thread. I'll pop that down. I've made a huge mess in here again today. And finally, I'll just have another little sip. I just want to have a very brief chat about some yarny plans that I have for the rest of the year. Now, I've got coming up imminently, because I had to cancel. I was going to the event in Bath that was run by Helen and Carmen from Curious Handmade and the Yarn Story. Had to cancel that because I was still poorly, which was a shame. I was very much looking forward to it. And next up on the agenda is I'm hopefully going to go down to Bristol to the Flock event that's run by Claire and John from Bird Street UK. That's an event, it's a day event held in Bristol on the 1st of June, I believe. Check out their Instagram page, Bird Street UK or Mr. B's Yarns, and you'll get all the information there. So I'm hoping to go down there with Amanda, Knitting Mummy, for a nice day with yarny friends, and there's normally some Mr. B's yarns to buy, and I think a couple of other vendors and tea and cake and knitting, so that will be a nice event. Then in July is Fibre East, which I'm also looking forward to. It's one of my favourite festivals. And I've got, it's kind of like an itch that I need to scratch. I really would like to go to Rhinebeck. and I've discussed it with Justin, not for his permission obviously, but just discussed it and said, what do you think? And he said, absolutely, go for it. You should go for it. If you want to go, no time like the present, just get yourself booked and go to Rhinebeck. So I was all excited, and then I realised that, oh, okay, well, I haven't got anyone to go with, so that's a bit, don't get me wrong, I do a lot of travelling for work. It doesn't bother me. I'm quite happy to drive to the airport, get a flight to New York, and then find my way up to Rhinebeck. I've done a lot of Googling. You know what it's like when you decide you want to do something, suddenly you just start doing all the research. So I think you can pretty easily get a train from New York up to Rhinebeck, but then it's accommodation. Would I want to? I don't mind travelling on my own. Would I want to stay on my own? I don't know. So there's a lot of reasons that is now making me think, oh, can I actually do this? Would I? I could do it on my own. Would I want to do it on my own? So I don't know if there's anyone going from the UK. I did put something in my Instagram stories to see if anyone from the UK was heading over, but nobody contacted me. So they're either not or they don't want to go with me. And then I thought, well, maybe there are some people that I know. There's a couple of ladies that have come over from the States to the country house retreat. I don't know. I have to make contact with them and see if anybody's going from there. Because I know lots of people sort of like rent houses and share once they're there, stay sort of together. There doesn't seem to be a huge choice of hotels nearby. So that's something I would really, really like to do. But I just need to see if I can sort of arrange to not necessarily travel with, but at least meet up with some people that I sort of know once I'm there. But wouldn't it be amazing to go to Rhinebeck? I just think it would be fabulous. I'd set my heart on going to Edinburgh next year for the first time, and then of course they announced that Edinburgh Yarn Festival wasn't going to be happening in 2020, so that was a big disappointment for me because I was absolutely made my mind up I was definitely going to go. So I thought, well, if you can't go to Edinburgh, then go to Rhinebeck. So we will see. But yeah, that's my yarny plans for the rest of the year. So let me know if you've got any yarny plans coming up too. So I think I've finally reached the end of everything that I wanted to talk to you about today. And I hope you're all still awake. And I hope you've enjoyed seeing my array of finished objects, hearing about my new plans for my 3 S's, sweaters, shawls and socks. And I hope you join in on the Ravelry group and tell me about your scrappy projects, and you could be in with a chance of winning Lana from the Yarn Lab UK's beautiful mini set. I'm going to leave it there now, and I will see you soon, and have happy knitting from now until then. Bye.